That's the Rabbi taught.
It's not clear. It's not clear. Not really.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
now we hear you.
Shalom Aleichem, everyone. Let's get straight to the Haggadah. And in Mitzvah Hashem, we'll have, hopefully in the last few minutes, a little time to make up for the Niglish here that we usually have. Today is really a makeup from last night. Baruch Hashem, I feel like a new person today. Chazdei Hashem, I hope it will continue.
Baruch Hashem.
This is the show is a copy from the Shulchan Aruch the Alter Rebbe. Yesh medaktikin loymar ki ha oy hol ki lachma. Lefi shein shayach loymar hol lachma de hol avastana. The first piece we say in the Haggadah after Magid is, this is the bread of affliction. What do you mean, this is the bread of affliction? This piece of matzah, you mean, is 4,400 years old? You mean that's what I paid, $33 a pound in the Albany bakery? So the answer is not. This is, it's a lie. This fresh matzah was baked this year. So what do you mean? Hey, Lachma, Anya, this is the bread of affliction. So the Shulchan Aruch says that really there's a lot of commentaries that have a problem with that, and therefore they change it. In Chabad, incidentally, we don't have a problem because at Kabbalah we say hey Lachma, Anya. So once you start with a tzeda, it means something else, and Kabbalistically there's a whole thing with Yosef HaTzadik who said hey Lachem Zera, and we'll leave the Kabbalah for another day. But whatever is a pipshat and is printed in the average Machzer and the average Siddur and the average Haggadah, including in the Maxwell Haggadah, you know, that Haggadah that's good to the last drop.
They still have it?
Yeah, they still have them. I used to run public Storim with them, and they don't have Hey Lachma, so they have Hol Lachma or Kilo Lachma. Mefarshim say it doesn't make Hol Lachma, this is a lie. This is the bread. So they say, Kiha, this is like the bread. Shein ze alecha mamash ochla b'seinu, ulefikach av sheba'osim asvarim anusach hu Hol Lachma makom hakom ha'omer Kiha Lachma ha Kil Lachma lo yifsid. If a person, even if it's in your nusach, it's printed Hol Lachma, if you're going to change the nusach slightly and say Kiha Lachma, this is like the bread, because you don't want to lie, that's fine. Again, if you don't want to lie and you say kid, that's also fine. Why don't we just change the Machzer? Why the Alter Rebbe says it's also fine if you change the Nusach, but say you must change it. It doesn't. You can't lie. A pshat from the Rebbe that is unbelievable. It really is a message for this year's Seder more than ever before, and is a unbelievable secret to a life of tranquility, and is definitely an unbelievable tool in dealing with today's situation. The Rebbe points to a sikh from the Frierdiker Rebbe, one of his final sikhs here in the United States of America. It's in Likutei Diburim, and I read it the other night. It'll take you quite some time if you read Yiddish, or if you read English. Either way, you can get it in the English. It's in Likud 7 of Likutei Diburim. I couldn't sleep at night, so I was burning with fever. So I had plenty of time to read it slowly, and it was dripping with honey.
Rabbi.
The Tate, wenn fliegt sagen Chassidus, fliegt sagen as aussprach. My father had this expression. When you understand something, you spend some time going into the depth of it. You have to develop a picture in your mind and live it. And he would say, just like if you have a pshat and nigla, you have a new chiddush, and you understand something and you understand it from all angles, you see it with your eyes. That's how you have to understand a godly concept as well. Sagt der Frierdiker Rebbe, that when he was a child, his father would train him. He remembers as a child in the Crimea, and his father would say to him, "What do you remember as a little boy?" And he would say things, and his father would explain to him the context of things he remembers. He says that caused him to remember things as a little boy. He remembers very clearly his grandfather, he said, the Rebbe Marash, even though the Rebbe Marash passed away when he was 2 years old. His father trained him to relive things in his mind. This concept, to have a chushat siur, to be able to relive something, to be able to visualize something and relive it, is the biggest gift a person can have. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe. Could think about this for a moment. The Frierdiker Rebbe lived and was in leadership through the 30 most tumultuous years in Jewish history. He took over from his father in the aftermath of First World War, when typhus was rampant throughout Europe, and Achmon al-Itzlan Chassidim were dying, and throughout the Bolshevik Iron Fist, through the Nazi Achmon al-Itzlan, and then to rebuild Judaism here in the United States of America. And the Frierdiker Rebbe turns here and says, let me tell you what my secret is. When you relive some sweet memory, it doesn't matter time and space. It doesn't matter how long ago it happened. If you close your eyes and you relive it, you could feel the sweetness all over again. If the Rebbe turned at that time to Tamimim and said, remember the time you were in Lubavitch, remember my father's sweet and soft words that can melt the heart. Before I continue, needless to say that today there is videos that could help us to, if we want to relive and receive things and sichas and soothing words that we heard from the Rebbe. When we relive these things that we lived years ago, it can take us out of a slumber of shtus, and we can make us alive all over again. Case in point, says the Frierdiker Rebbe Lubavitch, he says, many of you might remember the Mashpia de Michel. Well, obviously no one today remembers. But some people around here remember some people that remember the Mashpia de Michel, the Alter. Perhaps. Before I continue, with great sadness, I want to mention Reb Motel Chain. Reb Motel Chain came to Fabrenk for us in Beis Menachem Mendel this year for Besimchas Beis HaSheva. For years I had the cheshek to bring him. It just never got around to it, and this year I got around to it. Rabbi Castell called me up and said, would you like to host him? I said, Gesundheit. I'd love to. I tried to talk to him several times, but he rebuffs. But now he went to Rabbi Castell because he wants to do Mivtzoyim. Anyway, he fabrenged really nicely in our sukkah. They used to go every Wednesday night, him and my father. That's my gift at the Yankas. I know Wednesday night my father leaves the house to do a Mivtzat film. I think it was they're going over 30 years of Mivtza Mezuzah. I'm sorry, Mivtza Mezuzah, yes. They had an article in the Beis Mashiach magazine, I think it was 2 years ago on Pesach. Unfortunately, the Motel passed away today, was his Levaya. The continuation, the Shir should be Lezicher and Nishmosei.
And Rabbi Yisrael Friedman.
Rabbi Yisrael Friedman, the beloved Rosh Yeshiva in Lubavitch and Olei Torah. So says the Frierdiker Rebbe, the legendary Mashpia Michel, the Alter. When he was a young man, he told the Frierdiker Rebbe the following story: that he had a son, Lo Yaleinu, that got very ill. Doctor said that it's a question of a very short time before he passed away. It's too late. There's nothing to do. And Michel started to cry, and he ran to the Elter Chassidim in his town. What should I do? I told him, well, the Gemara says, Al Yimna Adam Atzmei Min HaRachamim. Why are you being miyayish? One of us will go with you, and we'll go to Lubavitch. And the doctor said that it'll for sure happen within a few hours. They said, don't worry. The Melitza Yosher in heaven at least will make sure to press the pause button until at least you come to the Rebbe, and then the Rebbeinu Shalom will decide. When they got to Lubavitch, he was immediately ushered to the Rebbe's room, and he started to cry, thinking that he's wasting his time. According to the doctors, his son is not alive. He did write a note, and the Rebbe Rashab looked at him and said, why are you crying? Tracht gut, wird sein gut. Think good, and it will be good. Du wirst sein, klog nicht. Du wirst sein auf dein Einiglechs Bari Mitzvah. Don't complain. You're going to be by the grandchildren's Bar Mitzvah. And the Michal said that throughout his life he had many, many difficult moments. But whenever he had a difficult moment, he, in his mind, went into that moment where the Rebbe Rashab comforted him. And the Rebbe Rashab told him, don't cry, think good, and it will be good. And this all of a sudden would turn into a beacon of light. It was like a bunch of fire. It would warm his heart and dispel the fog of the brain. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, we see that the Chush HaTziur even has positive side effects, begashmias, physically on a person's health. And here we come to the main story that the Frierdiker Rebbe is telling. Obviously, I'm going to tell it in a super duper abbreviated version. So the story was of Rabbi Yitzchak Baditchever. He one day got up very early and he davened early. Something strange in the air for Rabbi Yitzchak to daven early. He told a few Talmidim that he'd like them to come with him. They got a wagon, and he told them exactly where he wants to go. Outside Berditchev, there was a rich count, and he had miles and miles and miles of fields and towns. And there was a German who had a wealthy German who had bought from him a huge piece of land with rivers and so on and mills, and he built himself a beautiful palace. He had also brought with him a German who ran the business, and although he was a very efficient businessman, he unfortunately had one weak point. He hated Jews. So this was a place where originally Jews had made good business, buying and selling from these lands. He chased away all Jews. He also had another problem, which is he had a dog which he loved, a dog that he claimed brought him all his success. Unfortunately, while I'm telling the story, I'm expecting that someone from Beis Menachem Mendel should be on the thing. I'm not sure he joined us. So,
He's texting me. He wants to join now.
Oh, okay. Let him join. Talking about the Yid with the big black dog. The problem with the thing is that dogs know what their owner's feelings are like.
They can sense them. They
Definitely can sense them. And when I go to this Yid to visit him, by and large, I feel safe, even though the dog is around. But he tells me that his workers don't feel safe around the dog. At these properties, it was the opposite was unfortunately true. This dog knew to attack Jews, and the Jews in the villages around called the dog the Schwarze Klippe. You can imagine why. The Black Devil. And if they needed to pass by, they made sure to always be with the club in hand or something, because it wasn't safe to pass by anywhere in these lands without a club, because they might bump into this dog. It was a strong, vicious dog. This was a very handsome individual, this German, and he was also very strict with his workers. He was very orderly and very fair. If he caught one of his workers laughing out loud when it was not appropriate, he would get whipped. His private life was a shambles. He used to love to drink. He was deep in tivus. Needless to explain. When the Badichever told his students where they're going, they went into shock. As soon as they came into the properties, it was a gorgeous. Friedrich Rebbe describes the scenery, how there was gorgeous lands. But as soon as they came close, there were dogs. And the dog started to bark. The Badichever said, don't worry. It says that the dogs don't bark when the Jews go out of Mitzrayim, but the Yidden go into Mitzrayim, that's the time for the dogs to bark. They came in front of a impressive looking house, and the Barditchev said that he would like to ask the Balabayas of this house if he can go inside the house to daven mincha. In the meantime, the windows opened and there were a whole bunch of goyim, half drunk, saying, a bunch of gypsies are here. Good, look who's coming. A bunch of gypsies. In the meantime, the owner of the house, it turns out to be the German, the dreadful German, came out with his dog. When he noticed that it was actually Jews, he went into a rage. He pulled out his pistol. In the meantime, the dog was jumping all over, trying to get in to start biting. The Badichever stuck his head out of the coach. And the German tried to shoot the Badichever, and he couldn't. He tried twice, and when it failed, he opened his gun again and clicked it again, and he shot a third time. But he must have been off by a drop, and the bullet hit the dog. He went into immediate shock, and everyone that were looking from the window were in shock. They knew that there was legend that this person said that all his success in his life came from his dog, his companion. He loved his dog more than anything. His workers knew that they needed to treat that dog really good, to keep his times for eating and drinking milk and meat and so on, to bathe him well. And here, because of a bunch of Jews, the dog was killed. The Badichever made no impression on him, the commotion. The Badichever asked one of his Talmidim to please go over to the German and ask permission for him to walk into his house and to make a minyan to daven mincha. When the German heard the name of the Badichever, and Badichever's name was known throughout the region, he said, sure, no problem. And the whole Chavraya with the Badichever went into the house, and they started to make preparations to daven mincha. In the meantime, in the next room, the German, his friends started talking to him. You gotta do something to these Jews. The Jews are the ones that caused you to lose your dog. The German said, you guys are peasants. You guys know nothing. I was a personal escort. I was a personal bodyguard of the Kaiser in Germany. And he started describing how he was the lowest rank going into the German army and how he worked his way up. Friedrich Rebbe goes through it, great detail, explaining how an officer who's called into the office of a higher ranking officer by 2 or 3 ranks comes in with a tremble in his feet. If a soldier was called to a general, he's definitely trembling. Now, if the general is now sending the soldier to the Kaiser, the soldier is in absolute tremble and awe. Said the German, you guys are peasants. When I saw the face of this holy man, it was awesome. It was more than seeing the Kaiser. And he fainted when he said that. And you can't fake it. You can't, try to dramatize something and faint. He physically fainted. That means, says the Frierdiker Rebbe says, pause for a moment. That shows you that the power of reliving something, remembering and reliving something. He was able to relive his service in front of the Kaiser and to connect that to his seeing Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchever to the extent that he fainted. Bekitzer, this man had an unbelievable change in his life. The Berditchever asked his students not to tell anyone about this. And what happened was, a few weeks later, there was news around Berditchev that that dreadful German and his dog vanished. He sold back all his properties and rights to the owner of those lands, and he vanished. A few students of the Baal Shem Tov, of the Rebbe Yitzchak Berditchever, who went with, knew that it wasn't just that he vanished. They knew that he was sitting in Berditchev. He became a Baal Tshuva. Not only did he become a Baal Tshuva, but eventually got married to a woman in Berditchev. Became a father of a family, of one of the nicest families in Berditchev. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, now you understand the expression of my father. As me versteht an Inyan, is la'achar me versteht is as me sich misakev auf hamaimik Dasein in der Inyan und guckt beziure bemoiche auf der Askole wie eine guckt der Verzier noe. That when we understand something godly, when we spend a few minutes to think before Shema about the greatness of Hashem, it's not just to be mechadash pshat, but to visualize it, that wow, like you saw a beautiful picture. You had an awesome vacation. And when you're thinking about it, you're like, there's light in your eyes. Or you're thinking about a moment in your life which is full of light. When a person develops that power, the chush hatziyur, to visualize and relive something, a person could transform time and space. And even when the current seems not so ay, a person could be pulled out and put into an unbelievable place of light. Ad kan the Torah of the Frierdiker Rebbe. I think this is already Dayenu. But now back to the Torah of the Rebbe in the Fabrengen that he used to give after the Seder on the Inyonei Seder. Said the Rebbe that this koyach hatziyur is really what we're talking about when the Bala Agoda put this piece, Hey Lachma Anya, Ho Lachma Anya, right in the beginning of Magid. Right in the beginning of Magid. That a Yid should feel, this is the bread. That a Yid so much comes to the realization that I am going out of Mitzrayim. He visualizes Yitzias Mitzrayim in a way that it's so alive that he opens his eyes and he says, Kindalach, look at this. Hey, Lach, Ho, Lachma Anya. This is the bread of affliction. If he can't say that, then he could say, Keha, Ha, Ke Lachma. He can't lie. Lo Hifsid. But the original Bala Agoda, again, Api Kabbalah, there's a thing of hey. But the original in the Agoda is Ho Lachma Anya. A Yid has the koyach v'leila seder to visualize absolute chedus. They say a story from the Kloisenberger Rebbe. Rahman al-Itzlan lost his entire family in the war. Rahman al-Itzlan. He lost all his children. He had a big family. He was a beacon of light of Klal Yisrael after the Holocaust. They say the last day, when the Allies were coming to free them, he started to cry. No one ever seen him cry before. He stood very strong, making sure that people had courage to go on, and people ate and drank and didn't despair. They said, Rebbe, don't you see the Allies are coming? Why are you crying now? He said, that's why I'm crying. I was hoping for Mashiach, not for the Allies. So now many of us are hoping that Governor Cuomo, Mashiach Tzidkenu, or Mr. de Blasio, Mashiach Tzidkenu, or Donald Trump, Mashiach Tzidkenu, but no, that's not what we're hoping for. We're hoping actually for Mashiach Tzidkenu, the real one should come. So when we finally, when we're allowed to go out of the house, it's because the planes are waiting on the tarmac, and we're going in Mitzvah Shem to Yerushalayim Yerakodesh B'Bias Mashiach Tzidkenu.
Amen.
Let's go through a beautiful pshat in the 4 kashas that the Rebbe has, explaining. It's actually in Ayom Yom, explaining a Hasidic twist on the 4 kashas in the Haggadah. How is this night different from all nights in the entire year? What's the question? Night is golus, darkness is night. There were many nights Jews knew. Unfortunately, Jews know of many, many, many nights. It's very sad, but Jews have a lot of experience with nights going back to Mitzrayim, Bavel, Modai, Poras, Yovan, Antiochus, the Inquisition, Khmelnytsky, the Bolsheviks, the Nazis. We know many nights and dark moments. We say, what is this night different from all other nights? How is this night going to actually be different? 4 questions. We're told, all night, what's matbilim? What do you mean matbilim? We're dipping. The point is that usually we don't have karpas, and today we have karpas. Is it the issue is that just because we dip the salt, the onion in the salt water, or is that usually by supper we don't eat a raw little piece of onion? But al pi Kabbalah, the main thing is the matbilin, the dipping. Why? Because the word matbilim is meloshin tevila. Usually, in every golus, when the Yidden finished, they went through one tevila. Toiveling, as a child even knows, when you go to the mikveh, that symbolizes purity. When they finished the golus, they all went sort of into this idea of a mikveh. They all immersed into some holiness, and that was good. They were healed. But alayla ze shtei pa'amim. It's not going to be that we're going to go into one mikveh. We're going to have a double purification. Miruk ha'guf v'gilui ha'nefesh. What does that mean? So the Rebbe says on a simple level, that means a child also understands that there's some things that exercises you do with the soul and some with the body. You eat with your body. So if you made a bracha, you didn't make a bracha, you ate kosher, not so kosher, that's an issue with the body. Did you keep your body clean or not so clean? Then there is intentions, what we look at, what we think about. That's more, the neshama. So after every golus, the Jews were pure, but they were not absolutely pure. Had they been absolutely pure, there never would have been another golus. The fact that there was another golus, obviously they weren't absolutely pure. But after this golus, every Jew will be absolutely pure. Second question. Chametz means haughtiness. Matzah means bittul. A person could be a very successful life to be bittul. Bittul usually synonymous with a person who's passive. Not true. A person who's bittul is an open mind. He can take criticism from anyone. He can take ideas from everyone. He's not stuck on preconceived notions. He's open for the truth all the time. A person who is arrogant, a person will die with his own arrogance and will ruin his own life with his own arrogance, ruin his own business with his own hands and his family too, because he will not take an ounce of advice from anyone. After every golus, the Jews had a certain level of bittul, obviously, and therefore it was a geula. But here it'll be kulei matzah. It'll be the ultimate matzah. Third question. Always we eat all kinds of vegetables. This night will be motor. When Mashiach will come, eating is going to be like murder. Huh. Why would you think that when Mashiach comes, all we're going to eat is bitterness? I thought candies will be growing from the tree and Laffy Taffies. I mean, that's what my kids are telling me. So, yes, it's also true. But there's another thing that even children understand. Say the kids are really involved in a game. They're they're so involved in the game. And they want to finish the game, but their mother is not interested, will not have it. She has an appointment at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, the kids have to be to bed, 6 o'clock, if the system is nothing's happening, kids are going to be making akofis and climbing off the wall till 12 midnight if things are not, if they're not running on schedule. So she grabs the ball, now is supper. Kids are so upset. What's more sweet at that moment? Eating their burgers with ketchup that the mommy gave them and the french fries, or in their mind, the game that they were playing. The game they were playing. They're not interested, not in the ketchup and not in the french fries, not interested. Well, mommy says, well, there are going to be consequences if you don't eat. So they eat as much as it takes not to get the consequences, and that's it. But they're totally not interested in the food. When Mashiach is going to come, and he's going to say the sweetness of Torah, the sweetness of sweet, the deepest of the deep and the sweetest of the sweet. And the Yid is going to be told, okay, listen, you have to eat already before the shir. Take a break, 15 minutes, you come back later, you continue learning later. It'll be so bitter, that stop, because in his mind, I will weiter lernen. Sure, Yerokas, sometimes, short Yerokas in those days was lalafas apas. If you had vegetables, you were a rich man. You ate good meals. It's like, it's like champagne and fragua. There was lalafas apas. In the Gula Mitzvah was
caviar, Rabbi, caviar.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for the help. Caviar and a cigar.
Of course. Dipping it into...
Thank you for helping the imagination. So that's what's going. But Mashiach is going to come. The sweetness of the sweet and the deepest of the deep will be revealed. That everything else will be nothing. It will be dust to it. And the fourth question is, sitting means you're relaxing, but it's not as relaxed as when you're just on your couch and you're sprawled out. Sometimes Jews are not so bad. They're in Golus. It's not so bad. They're living in New York. They're not in the ghetto. It's not so bad, but Golus is Golus. But after Mashiach comes, there'll be Kolonim Mesubin. It'll be absolute tranquility. And the child asks, how is this going to happen? We see such uncertainty in the world. How are you telling me that all this is actually going to happen? And the answer is, 4,400 years ago, the Jews were in a much worse state. And all of a sudden, in one moment, that the Eibishter took us out with a very strong hand. So just like miracles could happen then, the miracles can happen now. And that before we even get a chance to imagine, that the reality will trump all imaginations, and we'll experience the Gula Mitzvah Shlema al Yedei Mashiach Tzidkenu. We have a couple minutes. We have 8 minutes left, so I guess we could do a little bit of the Nigla stuff over here. I just want to point out something interesting from last week's Gemara shir, the Tuesday night. We're not going to open the Gemara again, but just based on what we learned last week, and I thought there's a beautiful diuk in the Tanya of Beis Nissen, and also the following few days of Tanya, based on what we learned. We discussed the idea of brachas, the importance of kavon and brachas. We spoke about the fact that there was a pandemic in the day of David HaMelech. 100 men were dying each day. David asked Baruch HaKodesh in heaven, what should he do? And he was told that he should make a takana to every man and every person should say 100 brachas each day. And as soon as he did that, people stopped dying. And he said that this is based on the pasuk. The pasuk says, "Mo Hashem alakecha she'el mimach." What does God want from you? Ki'im liyira la'ava lazachrei, to have awe of him, to love him, and to remember him. And he said, "Ma" means meya, 100. That, in other words, really what he was saying is like this: when you talk to God 100 times a day. Oh God, can I please have the cup of orange juice? Yes, thank you so much. Can I have the burger? Oh, thank you so much. Can I have the caviar? Pass the caviar, please. Thank you, God. This was really good. And if everything in the day we talk to God, everything. Wake up in the morning. I said this morning the bracha l'kai neshama shenasatabi was like unbelievable. I feel like a new person. I thank God. Wow, God is brilliant. He figured out this idea of sleep. There's some downtime, and then all of a sudden you're rejuvenated, like a new person. Every time you talk to God, that creates that relationship, and that strengthens that love and respect and remembrance of the Eibishter. It says, the reason why angels don't die is because they're always dovuk to Hashem. They're always connected. Human being is not so dovuk. He's not so connected. So, therefore, the person doesn't live forever. If without the sin, humans would have lived forever. After sin will cease to exist, humans will live forever. When a person will be trained with absolute matzah and bittul, a person will have the capacity to live forever physically. When a Yid is dovuk to the Eibishter, he lives. When a Yid makes brachas, 100 brachas a day, he remembers the Eibishter, and that increases the union of life. We spoke about this 2 weeks ago on Sunday. That's connected, in my opinion, to the Tzemach Tzedek's idea of adding in the kavanah brachas in the days of a pandemic. So the Alter Rebbe says in Anya, he says that Im kolanal juven heite psaka alocha aruche betalmud the poiskim de hirur lav ke dibur domi. That now we'll understand the halacha and the Talmud and all the poiskim that your thought is not considered like speech. And if a person read Shema in his brain and in his heart alone, with the full measure of kavana, it did not discharge his duty. But and he has to read it again. And the same thing when the bracha after the food, which is a biblical mitzvah, ubishar brachas, the rabbanan, and all other brachas, which is a rabbinic mitzvah, ubetfila, and the same thing by tefillah. But if he said it with his lips and they had no kavanas, he was yoitza. And he doesn't have to repeat. Besides the first pasuk of Shema, and the first bracha of Shemana Esrei. Like we say, Bereish Perek Beis, the brachas, which is the Gemara we're learning now, Ad kam mitzvahs kavana, mekan ve'elech mitzvahs kriya. Till here you have to have kavana, from the rest you just have to read. So the Alter Rebbe explains why. Because the neshama didn't come down to this world to be metaken the nefesh. The nefesh could stay in Gan Eden, ain't tzarich tikkun. It came down to purify the body. So therefore, if there was no movement of the lip, so there was no impression in the body. It has to have an impression in the body. It has to have something with the body. And that's the ikar. And that's a very fundamental thought in Tanya, and is diametrically opposed to maybe many of thoughts in the school of Musa thought. Obviously, all waters go to the same place, but on the face of it, at least. So the Rebbe says an interesting ha'ora. The Rebbe says the question itself is not a question. How could speech be more important than kavanah? The Rabban Shalom decided, but that's what the Alter Rebbe is saying. Tefillah, the whole idea of tefillah is kavanah. If tefillah without kavanah is like he says later, keguf b'lo neshama, like a body without a soul, it's nothing. So even though the Torah itself says that tefillah, the whole thing is the kavanah, but still the Torah says that the main thing is saying the words. And true, the first pasuk Krishma, if you didn't say it with kavanah, you have to say it over in the first bracha of Tefillah Shemona Esrei. But if you had the most intense kavanah, you didn't say the words, you're not yotzeh. But if you had the minimum kavanah and you said all the words, you just said it, you're yotzeh. You're yotzeh. Because that's the ikar, is l'taken aguf and not l'taken nefesh. So now you see a beautiful diuk that the Alter Rebbe adds. You have to read it again. Why does he emphasize? He says it because it's the Reise. But what's the chiddush by mentioning Shor Brachas Derabanan? But based on what we learned, we understand because brachas, the kavana, the bracha is an integral part of the bracha. The whole thing, why we say 100 brachas a day, is to strengthen our love and our connection with the Rebbeinu Shalom. So one might think, just like in the Gemara that we learned, that the Gemara thinks that maybe if a person, when they said Baruch Atah Hashem in the part of the bracha, was confused about what's going on, if it was wine, it was beer, chulu, but at the end he said the right thing. So the Gemara was mesupik. What should we do? So the question was, what's the suffix? The suffix is because brachas kavana very important. Lamaisa, we say suffix brachas lahakol, but brachas is very important to have kavana. They shall helfen that we should strengthen the kavanas that we have in brachas. One more thing that we have that we could do al pi nigla, which is a nice thing connected to what we learned the Gemara in last week, is this source that was sent to you in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch Tov Pei Zayin. And I'm only learning it inside because it becomes much clearer based on the Gemara that we learned last week. And it's Negeya to Yom Tov Pesach is coming up. A person, the Chachamim gave you an abbreviated smaller davening for Yom Tov. Shalosh brachas rishona, shalosh acharonish, ubirchas kedushas hayoim be'emtza, 7 brachas instead of 18, 19. Dainish asking in kedushas hayoim, b'tchilas habracha. In the middle of Shemona Esrei, you mentioned the kedushas hayoim, ubesoifa samach lechsima, kadesh me'enchsim samach lechsima, v'yachtem, and at the end you conclude mekadesh Yisrael v'azmanim lefish Yisrael heim. Mekadshin azmanim al pi kevius hachadoshim amosor biyodom. That the Yidden have the power to sanctify the time. Even if he didn't say every word, he mumbled and he missed a few words. He's yoitza v'machzir. But there's 2 conditions. Number 1, im hiske kedushas hayom beemtza bracha kegon shischal habracha beyalei beyovef shemasker sham kedushas hayom lachaim shalom atov beyom chag hamatzas hazeh chag asukis hazeh, for example. V'gam chosem mekadosh Yisrael v'azmanim. He has to do these 2. Otherwise, he's out. He has to say Shemona Esrei again. Lo yiske klal kedushas hayom beemtza bracha kedem chasima. Oy. Or I feel Omer kol anus shtiken chamelos shebechasim tov v'lo Omer mekadosh Yisrael v'azmanim el chosam minyanach I feel tov chosam mekadosh Shabbos afal pi shegam Yom Tov nikrik Shabbos, even though in some way Yom Tov is also called Shabbos, we rest. Afal pi ken kibin shashinim mevatbei shetov chachamim beikar abrocha lo yotze. He changed the main part of the bracha is not yotze. B'tzorich lachzer l'roish ois bracha. He has to go back to the beginning of the bracha. If he remembers, after he concludes in it the entire bracha, and it's kedei dibur. Avalim niska b'toich kedei dibur. Within finishing that bracha, yachzer v'yom yad mekadosh Yisrael v'azmanim v'lo yachzer l'roish. If he mamish when he finished the bracha, he could say mekadosh Yisrael v'azmanim. If he said in the middle yom chag hamatzah, which is an unusual thing. And the reason first of all, it's an interesting halacha, and it comes out from the Gemara that we learned last week. Also, negei lagabe, there was a shaila that we spoke about last week, that if a person makes an alamichya or an alagefen or alapedis, and I see that the Achronim talk about what happens if a person got confused. So they say, as long as you finished at the end and said it right, it's good. But that's not true. there has to be that the Pesicha and the Chasima have to be correct. Just similar to here. There has to be that he said, Yom Chag HaMatzos, and also at the end say, Mekadosh Yisrael v'Hazmanim. Not all poskim hold like the Alter Rebbe. That's the Pashtus Adindu, according to the Shulchan Aruch. There are Rishonim hold in other ways, and the Gra holds not that way. They hold that no, like the Rebbe used to say, as long as the Chitum was right. As long as the Chasima was right, then you were Yoitza. But according to the Alter Rebbe, there has to be in a Matbeya Aruch, there has to be the beginning, and the Bracha has to be correct. So before we leave off, it's a very important nakuda that we see that this is very important, that the Yid has to know that the Yid is Mekadosh Dezman. It's not just a Pesach comes and a Pesach goes. We sanctify this time. When the Yom Tov comes in and we daven at home, it doesn't matter if we're davening in basement Achamedel or davening at home. We're bringing in the Kedusha in this time. And we are the neshamas that the Eibishter picked to be in Olam Hazeh, and we're the ones that it's in our power, in Mitzvah Hashem, to usher in the Zman of Mebias Mashiach Tzidkenu. And no other generation saw the power rippling effect of a little tiny thing, and we do see. So if we saw it in the negative, definitely we'll see it in the positive. The Eibishter shall helfen that Mekadosh Yisrael v'Hazmanim, that we should be Mekadosh Dezman. And the Zman should be Mekudesh with the Korban Pesach Bebias Mashiach Tzidkenu.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
You're welcome. So it's a Mitzvah Shem Sunday morning. Friday we'll learn the Maimer. If anyone wants to continue the Maimer, we still have a nice big chunk of the Maimer left over for. And Sunday morning we could do the Kol Yom Rishon. If you have any questions you'd like to suggest. I already have one interesting question that someone asked about halal, since we're not having minyanim. Halal night of Pesach. If you have any other interesting question, call or text me. And
when
then
we do Kiddush Levana now. When we do Kiddush Levana now.
Do the house without saying Shalom Aleichem. That's it.
Shalom Aleichem to the Malachim even. You can say Shalom Aleichem to the Malachim.
If you can hear them answering, you say Shalom Aleichem.
What time Friday do you have the shir?
11.
That's not.
Not surprising. Some people it's not surprising. And then Sunday night, I guess we'll fabreng. I guess the regular time, 8:30. We'll fabreng and Mitzvah Hashem. We should have the Gula Mitzvah Vashleima.
What time?
That's why we don't need a Rambam nowadays.
What time Friday? The
Erev Shabbos.
11 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
All right. By the way, you mentioned about whether the Malachim answer you, and I have a story. If anybody wants to hear, I said Kaddish for a cousin's husband in the Mishpacha, although Chabad did it also in Detroit, but I did it here. But I would hear an Amen from Shemayim. I don't know how to describe it. But I heard. At that time, my hearing was much better. So at a certain point, I no longer heard the Amens. It concerned me. So I called up my cousin and I asked her, when are the 11 months up? And she said that 2 days before, exactly when the Amen stopped.
Oh gosh.
So, all right. Anyway, for what it's worth, I just thought
Which language?
Rabbi, how's your mother?
Baruch Hashem, great improvements. Baruch Hashem, miracles. She's probably going to come home tomorrow. Baruch Hashem. Yeah, l'chaim.
So I have a quick question. Rabbi Drizzen wants to make a siyum by phone.
Good.
In the morning.
Good. What time?
9:30.
Okay. Good. Okay.
I mean, there's a fakest whether he still mentions it's better if you make your own, but if you can't, you can't.
I'm going to do my own. I'll get my own.
No. If I have a Masechta to finish, so if he has a problem, I'll do it. At 9:30, I don't know. I think the Oila might want a little earlier, but I mean, the Bechor can't eat till then. But I guess he didn't have a Shachris. 9:30 is good. Fine.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'll resend out the thing when it gets closer.
Okay, fine.
the protein. It's called. We're doing it vegan.
Thank you.
Okay.
A gute Nacht.
Yeah, shkoyach for the dinner. Shkoyach.
Koyach.
For Slema.
Thank you. Shulim. Shulim.
For Shlomo.
Mulik.
Shulim.